G'day everyone and welcome to the Melbourne Punters show. As usual, I'm joined by Darren Potter. G'day Potts.
Juppy, how are you, mate?
I'm good, mate, and we've got some exciting announcements now, haven't we?
We have, mate. We're gonna for 2016. We're just gonna change the format a bit. The Punters show we did with Racetrack Ralphie and with Dan Kelly was really well received, and we, in a perfect world, we'd like to do both the Punters show, Melbourne Punters show, and the preview each week, but we just don't have the time to fit them both in. So we've decided the best compromise is to do half a preview and half a Punters show, and this will be the first one. We'll probably just do it in one part today, but when we get Ralph and Dan in here in the future, we'll probably break it into two. But so I hope that all the viewers enjoy both aspects.
Yeah, it seems that from what the viewing figures look like, we've got our core audience that watch the preview each week, Potts, but there is another group out there that do love it when we talk stuff other than just the form of breaking down the races. So we wanted to sort of bring in a bit more than that, but as you say, it's just time constraints. It's just a bit hard to try and get in 2 days a week to do it. So Dan and Ralphie are going to be regulars, semi-regulars. We're going to try and get them as sort of often as we can, and also we'll be rounding up a few of the others. I'm going to try and get Andrew Ciccello, who won the tournament last week.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
And a few other boys from around town and a few other pros, and they can come and join us and give us their thoughts, Pots. So it's just a bit of a changing format for the new year. And we're still going to try and give some of the information away, but also jump on and grab the sets. That's the best thing. Yeah,
for those of us, there's some really cost-effective ways of buying them. You can buy it at a really sharp discount if you want to pay for the 12 months in advance. I know that's only going to suit some people, but the boys at the Punters show are always doing one package or another. So there are all different ways to buy it.
And we're going to preview a couple of the races from Flemington, and after that's one thing that we will launch into, Pots, is discussing the staking plan and managing your banks and whatnot, because there's been a couple of questions about that, and it doesn't matter whether you're big, small or otherwise. It shouldn't prevent you from getting on board. So we'll discuss that after that. But we'll move on to Saturday at Flemington, Potts, and to say it's been a wild week weather-wise here in Melbourne is probably the biggest understatement of all time. It was unbelievably hot yesterday. It was 42, and it was out where I was, it was sort of 44 by the time I knocked off work. And then you nearly got blown away in here yesterday when the change rolled in, and that the wind's strong when it blows the spirit of Tasmania off the moorings and crushes half the park. So and there has been some rain today, but I think that'll just stop Mick Goody from getting the irrigator out, hopefully.
No, you'll probably still irrigate a bit, but yesterday, Juppy, without sort of flogging a dead horse, I'd say it was significantly hotter. No, it was hotter yesterday than it was the day that they cancelled the races at Flemington. Particularly in the time frame that they had the races with the revised time. So, but anyway, I mean, that race meeting yesterday was conducted extremely well, efficiently. It was. A lot of the jockeys said, it's warm, but, it's not humid, so we're okay. You know what I mean? And Brad Warilla particularly made that point. We'll discuss Brad a bit more later on because he is riding in amazing form at the moment. I've noticed a subtle change recently in his riding. We'll discuss that a bit more later on. But, I thought the jockeys and all the participants yesterday really need to take a pat on the back and the officials for going ahead with the meeting and conducting it so well.
And the other thing that we will touch on after we preview these couple of races is Racing Victoria's trial of the half-an-hour gaps.
Yeah.
That should be a huge benefit, but we'll get onto that. We'll kick off, Potts, with race 3 at Flemington, which is the C-Scray handicap over 1400 for the 3-year-olds. We've got Hey Doc 370, Bringaroo 290.
No, that's race 1 you took.
Hang on a minute.
So while you're just looking at that market, I'll just say, the track is very hard to predict tomorrow. We've had 3 recent meetings at Flemington where it's played heavily towards the fence. and those meetings have been punctuated by a meeting on the 12th of December where it played off the rail. So they're fooling around with the track there, and I think my explanation is it's so subtle. The tipping point is so subtle that this messing around they're doing with the aeration machine. Like, I understand the strip where the watering truck is, but it seems to me like there's an agenda here to get the fields racing in formation, which to Mick means the leader staying on the fence, and just have normal formation rather than leaders getting out to the middle. I think he hates the visual of that happening,
them rolling off the fence,
which often happens, I think, when tracks are over irrigated. So I could sort of see where he was coming from, and through winter it worked really well, but boy, it's getting very hard to predict what's going to happen with this track. So I think there's nothing you can do for tomorrow except go there do the form as if it's a fair track, and then adjust in the day, because making a prediction is just a bit of a fool's game at the moment.
Well, that was 2 meetings in a row where they irrigated the outside fence too, wasn't it?
Yeah, they've doctored it so the outside's no good.
Yeah. Actually, I have the right market here, Pot, so I'll run through it again. Charmel is 7, Tyrannise 850, Twisting Typhoon 420, Laquar 11, Patton for Michelle Payne and Robert Hickmont 420, Recalcitrate 10, Nikoko 650, and the rest are all double figure spots.
Well, the first thing that struck me, Juppy, is I can't remember the last race I looked at since the spring where one of Lloyd Williams' runners was in the market.
Yeah.
So it's been, but here he is, Patton. So, like, an intriguing race, really interesting race. So you've got, Tyrannise and Nikoko coming through a couple of really solid recent Saturday 3-year-old races.
Yes.
You got a horse like Patton that debuted at Echuca at a pretty big price, and was impossible not to be impressed with what he did. But it's a big step up from that to a Saturday race. And you got Charmel, obviously bought in a sale from Godolphin.
Yep.
Appearing for the Weir Yard, so that's always...
well, that's plus 5 links, isn't it?
It's plus something. That's... and then you got a horse like Twisting Typhoon, who started like big odds at both starts. Both slowly run races, but he's done things in both races that were, impressive. It's hard to know what sort of level he's got because he hasn't been tested at all, but he's done nice things at both starts, albeit at big odds. So it's an intriguing race.
There's plenty of DF, isn't there? They are coming from everywhere.
So in the end, I sort of, spent a lot of time on this race. The other thing is there's no natural leader here, so I think sort of Tyrannise, Twisting Typhoon and Lackwell will come across from out wide. They'll sort of control the race. So I did the races, did the prices, and then went to the market, and it's meant that I've had to back both Tyrannise and Nikoko because they're third and fourth picks in the current market, and I think they probably should be close to equal favourites.
Yeah.
They got the proper rubber stamp Saturday form. So in Tyrannise's case, Tyrannise resumed as a gelding and had a close finish with Surprising at Bendigo, I think it was.
Yeah.
Which at the time looked a bit iffy, but in hindsight, that's they're two talented horses.
It's a pretty handy maiden.
Then he come to his home track for the first time, and he looked a different horse. Just travelled sweetly throughout and won really well. And then he's gone to Caulfield, and he missed the kick, got in an awkward spot. He just sort of got lost, and I think that's a very forgivable run. And he'll get up on speed back on his home track. And he just looks really good betting value at $8.50, $9. I'm not convinced he'll start shorter than that, but he probably will. The O'Brien horses tend to be well backed when they come back to Flemington. So Ollie on, he's got to be the horse to back here. Nikoko comes through the same form line. He's just been crying out for 1,400 metres, this horse. So he gets that. He will need a pattern that'll allow him to run on. Like the last meeting here, you couldn't run into the races out wide. So the rail goes out another 3 metres here. So hopefully it's fair and he can, and he'll get his chance. With Patton, was just a really impressive win there at Echuca. Like he ran past a decent moody horse, and they completely busted the rest of them, who were no good, but they did destroy him. But he started $8, and this race is the baseline in this race would be somewhere between 3 and 5 lengths harder. So he sort of got to improve that much to be in there. And when you do the map here, he's every chance of either having to go right back to last or being caught 3 wide.
Yeah.
That's a bit subjective. You never know until you see it, but he could just slot in midfield perfectly, but that'd take a bit of luck.
And does he want further too?
Yeah, that was a fairly slowly run race at Echuca, and he charged away. I mean, the last half of the race was run significantly above average.
Yeah.
Which that is an indicator of a horse that wants more ground, so he's probably going to be,
Yeah, well,
so he'll certainly be looking for 1600 at his next run, and down the track he'll probably be, a 2000 move horse or whatever.
Yeah.
But it just seems a short price to me for a horse that's only had one. He said at $8 at Echuca,
and you want to take 420, it's straight out of a maiden into this.
Yeah, so he's definitely a winning chance, but I think he's a price that I'd have trouble taking. I won't be taking. So I'm hoping that he gets out to a more backable price on race day.
Yeah.
And Twisting Typhoon, he's also looks pretty well found for a horse that starts such long odds at both starts. But like I said, he's done nice things, and I find it very hard to figure out. Like I've got an idea what Tyrannai's talents are.
Yeah.
And he's sort of at a level where these other two have to get to.
Yeah.
And they could well get to him and go past him.
Yeah.
But it's sort of, there's a lot of guesswork involved in that. So I think they're the 4 chances, and obviously the wild card is Charmerel with having its first start for Darren Weir.
Yeah, if it gets out to a price, you've probably got to nearly keep it on side, don't you, Potts?
Yeah, it's the sort of thing that I look at them, and
especially
as soon as there's any signs of any support, I just try and get it so if it wins, it's a break-even race for me. So it's almost like paying a small price for it being a scratching.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's because as Harry Coffey's been riding in really good form.
Yeah.
We know the form the Weir stable's been in, and everything they sort of get. They seem to add 3 lengths to minimum.
Yeah, we'll talk about Harry a bit later on too.
Race 6, Potts, is the English Dash over 1100, which is of 250,000. Gold Symphony 480, Hellbent 265, Bitburg 750, Mossing around 13, Beyond Purple 10, and there's plenty here that are at various prices. It looks a reasonable field, Pots, that have sort of come from everywhere.
Yeah, well, as usual for these English restricted races, it's a race with a long tail. So
yeah,
the two top chances just completely stand out. Hellbent's a talented horse that hasn't been well handled. He's had gaps in between runs and back to the trials, and then he's been presented, and he's looked for the world to have run out of fitness late, and as a result of those gaps between runs and not being fully wound out, he hasn't paraded as well as he should and stuff like that. So at his best, he'll win this race.
Yeah.
Right? And if he was here like third up or second up off a 1,000-metre run with 14 days between, he'd be a genuine $2.30 chance, a 5 to 4 chance. But given what has happened, he's been beaten at short odds a couple of times. I'm not prepared to back him until I see him in the parade.
Yeah.
I mean, I really liked his blinker trial. He settled beautifully with the blinkers on, and I think they're going to improve him and get him to concentrate. And my feeling is he'll win this race, but I'm not prepared to bet until I see him in the yard and just make sure everything's in order.
Yeah, because he could be a 6 to 4 chance or a 6 to 1 chance, depending on how he parades, couldn't he?
I think so. Yeah. I sort of don't think the trainer will make the same mistake twice, but stranger things have happened. Gold Symphony's the obvious second pick, but 1100. He probably wouldn't be in an 1100-metre race if it wasn't for 250,000. So he'll probably run a nice honest race. The bet I'm going to have in this race, Juppy, I'm going to have a place bet on Apriano. I think he's a well-hidden horse. He actually won he won really well at Cranbourne.
Yeah.
And then come to Moonee Valley against Heatherley, and we had a little bet on him. And it was race 1, so no one knew. They decided to take a sit, can't blame him. The jockey tried to get him out to a bit of room, can't blame him. At that stage of the day, he got out in the middle of the track, he was carted out there by another horse. His run was actually pretty good, and when you look back at it in hindsight as to how that track played, him and the other horse out there made as much ground out wide as any horses did all day. And it was, it was a run that had a lot of hidden merit in it. And so there's about $8 to place around, and I'm happy to have a little place bet on him at that price. I doubt that if Hellbent turns up in order and everything's right, I don't think Apriano can win, right? But I think he's a chance of sneaking into the placings at big odds.
And our old mate Jeff, who bumped his head last week and had to be scratched, he's got over his headache and he'll be in.
Here's Jeff.
Race 7's the feature pots, the Chester Manifold over 1400. Hang on, the great steeplechaser Chris did Chester Manifold.
Oh, there you
go. So we've got Dancers on Stars $7, Tried and Tied $4.80, General Groove $10, Nola's Choice $7, Sarajevo $3.50, Supercharge $4.20. Pots.
What did you say?
Hey?
What price you say in Sarajevo?
That's what I was about to
Are
ask.
they missing a 0 or something, or?
Seems a very short price for a non-winner.
Well, Sarajevo is a horse without any form.
Yeah.
His winning form's hopeless. His better runs are when he's been getting beaten, so he sort of occasionally runs on, into the money or just behind them in a high rating race, but he doesn't often run past horses. He's just a miserable horse, and he can win without me. And I'm happy to bet in this race because he's taken up way too much percentage.
Well, the thing about it, are they putting too much stock in the Durandal form pots? Because he has been beaten by him twice, but obviously the Standish, he was beaten 2.3, but he ran 8th. It was obviously a blanket finish, and it makes you worry about the form of the race.
There's 9 runners here, Juppy. I think 5 of them are coming through the Durandal race, and they nearly all finished in front of him. Tried and Tied certainly did.
Supercharge did.
Supercharge did.
Nola's Choice did.
Nola's Choice did. Is there another one?
No, just Circles got finished behind him.
Right. Anyway, if Sarajevo's a genuine 5-2 chance in this race, Juppy, I'm missing something, and I'm not sure what it is. So happy to bet on the basis of opposing him. So Tried and Tied's come back with a 1,000 metre run and a 1,200 metre run, which are, at this sort of level, it's hard for him to win at those distances, but 1,400's his go. On pace, he's a tremendous price. I think if the on-paces are advantaged at all, which
they could possibly be.
Like a sense of better than even chance, or even if they're just getting a fair go, because there's no wind, so I think he'll start favourite. Just seems obvious to me that he'll start favourite because he's going so well, and this is his course and distance. So Tried and Tied, rubber stamp, bang, your top pick. The stablemate, I think, is the main danger, General Groove. So he's coming from a different form line. I think that form line's strong. We saw Sir Bible do something pretty special out of that form line. And General Groove's another horse that's had 2 runs back at unsuitable distances. All of his peak form's at 1,400 metres plus. And he could get just a soft run here and tag into the race and, have the power to come after Tried and Tied. Supercharged is flying. He's looking for the 1,400 metres also. He's a really good chance in the race, but he looks well enough found to me. Good winning chance, and he'll need the pattern, that you'll have to be able to run on out wide.
Yeah.
So we'll have a look at him on the day. But yeah.
And do you want to have a look at the last spots?
Let's have a look at race 8.
Okay, race 8's the piping lane. I'm too old school there, Potts. I thought race 8 was the last. Race 8's the piping lane handicap over 2,000. Sign off 480. Star Rolling 10. Metaphorical 750. Sabre Triunfo 9. Second Bullet 460. Allergic 5, Warrior King 9.
Yeah, another really interesting race because you got the horses coming through the sign-off form.
Yeah.
Then you got the runners coming through the Flemington 2000 metre form, which is the obvious. That's Second Bullet and Allergic and a few others. And then the left fielder here, well, I suppose there's two left fielders, Sabre Triumpho and Warrior King. So I've got a feeling that sign-off form's going to be a terrible form race. Not that there's anything wrong with sign-off or even Ladari. I think they're both.
Yeah.
But they probably shouldn't have been able to win that day. And there were too many horses on the fence that sort of had odd runs, like Star Rolling and...
Yeah.
There was another one there. I just can't remember who they all were. There was a number of horses that day. Garud was one. They were all kicking back on the fence, like they'd sort of got past and they were coming back late. And there wasn't a lot of... There was no margins between probably 6 or 7 runners there. So at this stage, I'm prepared to take a bit of a set against the horses coming through the sign-off race. I'm just going to go with the... So that includes Metaphorical, Star Rolling, and I'm going to go with the track and distance form, which is the easy thing to do. I mean, Second Bullet's a really good Flemington 2000 metre horse. He'll get up on speed here, and he'll set a mark that's not easy to beat. So he seems a good rock solid runner here. Allergic sort of moved out to the middle of the track last night. They come after him, started to, and then hit the ground that was no good.
Yeah. And
I think he'll be fitter again, so I'm sort of thinking that he'll should get his chance to come after Second Bullet this time. And then if I've got Allergic in there, then I think back to that race at Caulfield, the start prior, at 1800, which was a really strong fitness building race. Yeah. And it was won by
Like a Day.
Like a Day, with that provincial horse that we backed running second. Can't remember its name. Anyway, it was just you had to be a very fit racehorse to compete in that race.
Yeah.
All the horses that had any sort of fitness career over them were gone at the 600 in that race. So.
And he was 1300 to 1800 in that race.
He was second up, 1300. So I'm sort of ignoring the finishing positions and just saying, let's look at the SPs, which is an indication of their talent. And Warrior King SP 290 and Allergic SP $10, I think.
Yeah, and Golden Main SP 650 was in the same race. Yeah.
So I'm prepared to give Warrior King another chance with the fitness building run under his belt now that he's out to double figure odds.
Yeah.
So I could also entertain Oregon Spirit here. He ran up to win in that Second Bullet race and then sort of peaked on his fitness. He's a big price. I mean, I'm not... it'll be a very small bet, but I could entertain him. So I think it's a really interesting race. It's hard to put your pen through many of them. So, for the quaddie players, any of these that you leave out, you'll be sort of feeling a bit nervous. Probably...
Rebel Rising?
Yeah, Rebel Rising was not a bad run last night. I mean, this is a big step up in grade for him, and Faust's an old thief. He's not much chop, but I don't think he expected to really get to 2,000 metres. He was positioned to win that race behind Second Bullet, and he seemed to hit a brick wall at the 100 metre mark, I think.
So there's a couple that you could potentially leave out of the quaddie, but they are interesting, those staying races with those horses at the minute, aren't they, Potts?
They are, yeah. This will give us a really good indication about how all those form lines come together. But the whole card is a really interesting card. Like last week, there were a few, like Duke of Brunswick, for instance, just looked a really good bet at 280. And,
yeah.
There were a few really strong favourites last week that were pretty easy to spot and okay to have a decent bet on. This meeting's completely different. There's not very many standouts on this card, I don't think.
And I think compared to last week to this week, I think Potts, the PBL chat room will be pretty critical this week by the sound of it. Just with, especially there's some there that might be dependent on yard reports and market support and stuff like that. So that's where the chat room comes right in on its own.
Definitely.
And let's face it, if you either watched the preview show last week or if you got yours set, you definitely had a complete filler.
Yeah, it was a good day last week, and we had another good day yesterday, so we're charging along okay at the moment.
and because of that charge along pots, that's meant that I've now increased my unit size.
Yeah, well, let's get into our second part of our show, which is the traditional punter show type version, or the Melbourne version of the traditional punter show. So we had a we'll get to the dollars per unit in a second, but we had a Twitter follower, Michael Dixon, sort of make the point about the cost of Pro Better Live and how it was a lot of the profits would be eaten away by the cost of the product. Well, Michael, the reality is that Pro Better Live Room is for people that probably want to bet in both Sydney and Melbourne, because you get not only my set, but you also get John Walter's set.
Yeah.
You get information from both mounting yards, information from both betting rings. You get a lot of other people in there that are really smart operators that are offering opinions on various things. There's been a number of times where there's been a horse at Newcastle or something, and Dallas or John's gone, this horse is worth backing, and there was one win the other week at $4.50, and another one John tipped at 40 to 1 that ran second, and it was about $12 the place or something.
Yeah.
You get Jumpy coming in saying sign off because he's just laid it to Darren Weir's mum at Kerrang. There's all sorts of value that you get, and I think it'd be hard to mount a case that you were trying to mount, Michael, that if you're only betting, if you're I think the words you used were an average punter, that the costs are prohibitive. I don't think that's the case at all, provided you're betting in both states. So you're probably missing out on some of the value if you're only betting in one state. So the second subject that you raised, as Juppy alluded to before, is the dollars per unit if you're using my stuff. The answer to your question, Michael, is it doesn't really matter what your starting point is. It's about what the aim of my method is. And you can get my set and not use my method, or use the staking plans, or you can use them. But if you are using them, what I recommend is that you, if possible, try and reinvest the profits and increase your betting, your dollars per unit over time in line with the profit. So it just so happens I'm sitting beside a guy that when he first got my set started at about $10 per unit.
Well, this is how it all came about, was that I was getting Robbie Waterhouse's stuff, and then the stewards stopped that, and then Potts came on board, and I hadn't seen it before then, so I thought, right, it's time to try it out because I want to keep betting in Melbourne. And I started off with a $10,000 bank, which is only theoretical. You don't actually physically need the 10,000 there, because you do turn it over and over and over. Yeah. So you don't necessarily need it set aside there. Started at $10, and since then I've now built it up where after yesterday I'm now up to $60 a unit just by reinvesting. The bank builds up, and then after that, after a certain amount of time, the bank will now sustain this unit size. And the only thing that will probably prevent me going bigger than that down the track will be the ability to get on.
Yeah.
Because once you do get to from sort of here onwards, especially on the early market stuff, that's where it'll get tricky when you're trying to get on for sort of 5 unit plus bets.
Yeah.
That's where it'll get tricky. But it's just, so I think you base yours on a 1,000 unit bank.
In theory it's based on a 1,000 unit bank. As you said, you don't necessarily have to have all of that 1,000 units in liquid form. You just need to know where you can get it if you need it. So to give everyone an example, I think the biggest betting plan I've ever had on an individual day might have been 130 units.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're talking about $1,300 if you're a 10 unit punter. So like you said, a 10,000
bank,
bank, and the most you've ever used on one day is 1,300.
Yeah.
And we've never ever had I don't think we've ever had a set that has not had a collect. I don't think that's happened.
Yeah, like there's never just been a Black Saturday, we've just had a complete wipeout. That's what I was about to say. The drawdown on Potts' stuff's probably, as for a racing product, like compare it to say the Hong Kong set, the drawdown on like Hong Kong, if you were getting the Hong Kong set, it's completely different to Potts' stuff because you probably only need to bet like dollar units on that because it's so, like you can go for 2 cards without backing winner, but then all of a sudden you might back a 40 to 1 winner and you're back. Whereas Potts' stuff doesn't have a huge amount of variance in it. It doesn't have a huge amount of drawdown, and even if it was a 130 unit day, you don't have to put the whole 130 units on at once. Like it might only be 15 units in the first race. Well, if you get a collect after that, well then there you go. You can just keep reinvesting and betting that way.
Yeah, I'd like to. So we're addressing Michael's questions that he raised on Twitter, and the point is, it is for anyone that wants to have a disciplined approach, wants to follow a method that if you haven't got the time to do it yourself, because because the basis of it is having a full set of prices to 100%, isolating which are the key chances in the race, and building a staking plan around those key chances. And the majority of the time we operate at the pointy end of the market, with a few here and there we find outside of the market that have a pretty good record. Really, I'd like to think. So.
Just one thing with the staking plan, pods. As someone who's got a number of products over a long time, going back probably 10 or 15 years, the staking plan is worth as much as what the form is, because I've seen the best judges in the world have wild swings and go broke from time to time simply because they don't stake what they're doing correctly. And the staking plan that Potts puts out is like it's worth whether the 100 if you're going into the PBL or if you're just buying it individually for the 55, it's worth that just to get the staking right, because it means that you are ironing out a lot of those drawdowns.
Yeah, well, I mean it's been designed that way because I've made my living for almost 7 years now doing this, and it just suits my personality to have a lot of turnover, regular returns, operating in that area of the market where you're not having long runs of outs. I'm not the sort of form analyst that hones on a horse and says, right, this is a good thing.
Yeah.
I try. The way I think about form, it's all about the strength of form and the position in run. I'm looking for position and strength, and I think that the staking plan's based around those horses that are going to get into winning positions, that have got the strength in their form, and getting returns out of those horses. So, I'm glad you found it that way, Juppy. That's the way it's intended. I think we've got a very loyal base of subscribers. And we like everyone, we've had good and bad runs.
Yep.
But
well, and the other thing with it is, Pods, is that it doesn't take, like, for me to go from 10 to 60, how long ago was it 2.5 years?
August 2000, the first that I did was in July 2014.
Well, there you go. And it's not even 2 years yet. So that shows how quickly it's built up. So it's like the graph's never going to be in a straight line. The graph's going to go up and down. But as long as the graph's moving up, that's all you should be worrying about. Yeah.
So look, I hope that's answered your questions, Michael. I mean, I'm not sure if you really wanted the answers to them, but you raised those issues, and I thought they needed to be addressed. So the next subject that another Twitter follower on there, Punter Out Wide, I think it was, raised, was getting on, and just asked us to do have a bit of a discussion about getting on. My view is the market is nowhere near as good as it should be. It's nowhere near as vibrant as it should be. There should be some rules to make sure that vibrancy is returned to the market. However, we've got to deal with the situation as it is. And the reality is, Punter Out Wide, is that you're not going to get all your money on at the top of the market all the time. So if you just accept that premise, and then you go, okay, I'm going to try and read the market for a Saturday meeting now starts on Wednesday, goes through to Saturday.
Yeah.
So there's opportunities to bet at any time in that period. So you've got to, in my view, you've got to have a bit of a make an attempt to figure out where the market's going.
Yeah.
And do some of your betting early, some of you betting race morning, and some of you betting during the actual betting of the race.
That's how I do.
And be prepared to accept the average of the price over that period of time. So whether you want to break it into thirds or what percentages you want to use, it's really up to you. But just accept that you're not always going to get all of your money on at the top price, and it can go both ways. Like yesterday, I had a really good early bet on French Emotion at $4. Excuse me, I think it was a good bet, and it ended up paying $6.10 on the totes, and SP $5. So there's rough and smooth.
Yep.
Both ways. So I think that's in the current environment. I can't. There's just no other advice I can give you. I mean, Betfair's you can drip feed money onto Betfair. You can. The corporates aren't too bad on race day, and they're okay once you get into the actual the half an hour period before the race when you're on calls coming through. So you can get your money on, but I think what you're raising is getting your money on at the best price. You've just got to accept that that's not going to happen. So
with the corporates, a tactic you can try is just to treacle it on. So if you've got 200 to put on, put 5 lots of 40 on over the space of 20 minutes or half an hour, because that's not going to trigger too many issues. And don't underestimate how good products like, I know bookmaker.com which is Ladbrokes, still have the best for the Melbourne meetings on a Saturday, or Best Tate and SP. They're still very good products that bring the percentage down to a beatable level.
Yeah.
Especially with the SP in there as well. So and there's plenty of on course guys that would be happy with your business. Potts deals with Elite Bet, Dave Dwyer and the boys in Sydney. They offer a really, really good service.
So on that subject, because last time we talked about Elite Bet, I gave the phone number out incorrectly. I mixed a 0 up. The correct number is 02 9571 0050, and their website is elitebet.com.au. They'll offer a tremendous service. If they haven't got a market up and other corporates have, you can ask them if they'll match the price. The guys there, the service is outstanding, and they will take a decent bet. So there's another way you can get your bets on if you're having trouble.
Yeah, I use a couple of on-course guys down here in Melbourne, and always get looked after. Everyone thinks it's so easy now to use an app or the internet, but it takes 20 seconds to make a phone call. It doesn't take that much longer, and it allows you to build a relationship with these people, which does help you. It's very difficult to build a relationship with a Tab or a Sportsbet or one of the giant companies, because they're a giant company, whereas the smaller guys are there to offer. That's where they can compete, is by offering you service and looking after you that way. So
yeah.
It's, as you say, Potts, it's not. We all in a utopian society. We just be able to walk in and have whatever we wanted on anything. But
well, the problem is, Juppy, is you can get your bets on. It's hard work. You have to be prepared to work hard at it. I just think that my complaint is, and my plea to Racing Victoria and the other authorities, is that it could be so much better than what it is. I don't want a marketplace that's designed to my needs. I want a marketplace that's designed to maximise turnover, to create a really vibrant, alive marketplace where the money's moving around and things are happening. Not this, and we had a discussion when we did the previous Punter show.
Yeah.
And Dan raised the issue that the problem is with the minimum bet rules that they can be exploited by the big operators. I didn't think of it at the time. I thought about it later. But my problem with the current situation is the corporates haven't just targeted those really big punters. They have targeted all sorts of punters on the scale, depending on whether they win or lose.
Yeah.
You don't even have to win, really. You just have to get close to winning. The current ruleless environment is terrible, and there need to be some rules in place to get us back to a more vibrant situation. It could be so much better.
And the other option is you can always bet with Top Better.
Top Better, there you go. I haven't gone down that path yet, because that just shows you that in my case I do get the bets on, because there are quite a few avenues that I haven't utilised yet. So I'm sure everyone's the same. So on to our next subject, Juppy, which is yesterday. As I said, we had a good day, but there was one blip on our day yesterday, and it was in race 2 where there was quite a few first starters, and there were 2 that had jump outs at Cranbourne, where they actually film the jump outs, but they don't identify the horses. So you go on the YouTube and there's all the Cranbourne jump outs, and no one's viewed them. Not even the owners of the horses have viewed them, or 0 views on all of them. So I just wonder what the Cranbourne Club's doing. I mean, what's the point of filming them, putting them up, if no one knows which horse is which?
It's like going to McDonald's for a salad, Potts. It's just a pointless idea.
So one of those runners was Greg Urell's horse, Galaxy Raider, I think it was called. And so I sort of just went with the market price and left it out. As soon as it walked into the mounting yard, which was 5 minutes before the race, I was disappointed we didn't have the PBL chat room going at the time, because I would have said to everyone, I think we should have a unit on this horse, because it was just a really good-looking athletic horse that was very fit. It was primed to run well. And what intrigues me is that the argument against making all this sort of footage publicly available and identifying horses, that you rob the owners a chance to back their horse first up. There wasn't $1 for that horse. When I saw it come into the mounting yard, I had something on it on Betfair at $21. It started $26. So like the closer it got to jump, the bigger the price got. So I can't imagine, if the owners were betting, I can't imagine where. It was very well hidden. And
the other thing with it is, Pots, is like, if anyone thinks, and it's all being portrayed by the media hype and the mouthpieces for various corporate bookmaking firms, including the Tab, where they come on and say this thing's been sensationally backed because an owner's tried to have something on it that's been 12 into 420. Well, if they're all unraced 2-year-olds and they haven't been seen, and like I've worked in a corporate environment, that doesn't take a great deal of money.
No.
Because they're going to take no risks on it, the limits are going to be low, but it's also then good fodder for them to take to the marketplace saying, oh, well, this has been back from 12 into 420.
Well, let's look at last week, Jumpy. So there was footage available of Najmat. I thought it was a good jump out. She was well backed. I think we took like $5 or thereabouts early in the week. She started $3 or $2.80 or something like that. So because there was jump out footage available, all the bookmakers were able to lay her.
Yep.
And she didn't run a play. She got beaten, not particularly well ridden, but
they're still first starters, aren't they, boss? They
still
need to do everything right.
Absolutely. So I'm saying the fact that the footage was available there last week helped turnover significantly, and probably meant there were other runners in the race that people were able to get bigger bets on because.
And the other thing with it is, Pods, we've seen it at Caulfield and at Flemington, the sky hasn't fallen in. If anything, it's been status quo, and the thing is, it has increased turnover because the punters that actually want to put the time in will go and have a look at them. Like, I don't know whether it's a budgetary issue or what the go is there at Cranbourne, but it is whether RVL have to step in or whether Cranbourne need to go to them and say, we need the funding to be able to do this. If it takes someone 3 hours or something.
Well, they actually put out a PDF sheet of who the runners are in each jump out, but all they put is the trainer's name. So like Robbie Lang will have 3 runners, and there'll be 3 horses with Robbie Lang's name beside it. You got no idea which one's which. So
how hard is it to wax that up, Arthur?
Well, none of it's hard. It's crazy that we're even talking about this, but the fact that horse won yesterday just highlighted it, and it leaves a sour taste in people's mouths. I think so. A few people were upset about it. Anyway, I don't know what some of you next jump in. I just wanted to have a quick word about some hot riders at the moment. So the first one I want to discuss is Brad Barilla. I think Brad's riding in career best form. He's the way Brad's riding at the moment reminds me vividly of how Nash was riding in Sydney about 7 years ago, where he was regularly, he would be assertive early in the race.
Yeah.
So if something wanted to take the lead from him, they had to earn it.
Yeah.
And he would then stalk them.
Yeah.
And so whether he was in front, outside the lead, or 2 lengths off the leaders, he was controlling the races. And over time, over a period of about 3 or 4 years, Nash had the other riders in Sydney completely mesmerised, like he destroyed Corey Brown. And for the last, at least 3 or 4 weeks, Brad's been riding like that, and it's just been so good to watch. Like, you can watch Darcy's Law yesterday. He said to the other jockeys, "I'm going to hold the front. If you want it, you can, but you're going to earn it." And they didn't, and he was just too powerful for them. And then in the last winner, he made the other two horses earn the front off him. He stalked them, and then and it meant the horses behind him were chasing as well. So he's making it really hard for the horses in front of him, and really hard for the horses behind him. It's a really subtle art getting that right, and Nash is the best I've ever seen at it. And Brad seems to be doing it beautifully at the moment.
There was something that Ralph mentioned on that show that we did was, and I've been sort of keeping a little bit of an eye on it since he mentioned it, was everyone thinks that he either just gets beat or just wins on a lot of these weird horses in the country. And as Ralph said, look at them where they are 50 or 100 metres before the post, and watch where they are 20 or 30 metres past the post, and they can be 4 lengths off him right in the finish, and then they drop right back because he is literally getting absolutely everything out of him. So he's definitely one you have to have inside, and he's riding for the yard that's absolutely flying, and he's got the benefit of having Peter Allison, the form guys that they've got down there at the Weir stable, as well as having that, because I think that's a big advantage.
Yeah, I think as the Weir stable's got better and better and better, and they've got more professional, and they've added all those pieces, the jockeys that are attached like Brad are getting more and more confidence, and it's showing up in their riding. They're prepared to make mid-race moves, and
look at the 2 races on the Gold Coast on Saturday. He owned that ride on the hurdle. He just owned it.
He just owned it. That's exactly the way to put it. So, at the moment, if I find a horse and Brad's on, that's just tick, tick, tick. Obviously, the other rider at the moment that's just flying is Damien Lane.
Yeah, Frost's killing it, isn't he?
You can't speak highly enough of how well he's riding. And if anyone wants to see a better, or can anyone tell me a better ride than Harry Coffey's ride on Jackie's Joy last week, when we backed that horse, and we can thank Harry, because without a ride that good, she probably wouldn't have beaten the favourite, and it was such a perfect ride. So well done to Harry. There's a few. And
it also shows how well, I suppose we'll give credit to Ron Hall and Matt Hyland, Matt Pumper there at the apprentice school. Like, we've had Caitlin Mallion, she's outridden her city claim. Jackie Berriman's come within 10 winners or something. Harry's all but outridden his. Jai McNeil will outride his. It just shows how many good riders, and it just seems to be that vintage, how many good riders that the school's producing.
Yeah,
there's such depth in that top end of the top end of apprentices, and these young ones coming through. Like, there's 4 or 5 absolute guns that I'm looking forward to. Ben Allen, Kyle Maskill, and I think Ben Thompson's going to be a decent one too. Yeah, but whether he's in the same class as the other two, time will tell.
I'll add Regan Bales to that list. Yeah, he's further ahead, but Regan is a good jockey. He does a lot right, works hard. And I just want to have a word on Jai McNeil. He gave us a bit of heartburn last week for one reason or another. But some of his rides last week have just been phenomenal. His ride on Prix d'Or yesterday was outstanding. So,
well, maybe it's an incident like what happened last or Wednesday week ago that can be enough to just spark them and shock them into it. It was funny, they were talking about it on the radio pots in I think it was the race. It was that same meeting at it might have been on Saturday. Sally Winroad won, and she came back in 600 grams heavier than what she weighed out with, because what she'd done is they normally put like a bit of a sheet over, and then they put the towel on to put the saddle on. Well, she got the sheet and the saddle mixed up, and because the horse was sweating up, the towel absorbed all the moisture off the horse, and the towel was 600 grams lighter. Jai, put the towel on the bottom next time, old mate.
Well, I think it's the trainer that does. That did it. Anyway, look, happily, what happened with Tiggy Dig hasn't seemed to affect the Jai, because he was riding well before that. He nearly had a blip on Anaphora, but he got away with it, and showed a lot of courage getting away with it. To be fair. But he's another one. Happy to back him at the moment. No risk at all.
And have we got any on the flip side pots that are just completely off the boil?
Well, I mean, I said when we did the Punters show that the top 3 riders in Melbourne, obviously Craig Williams, Damien Oliver, and Dwayne Dunn, have been dominant for a while, but they've I think they're vulnerable.
Yeah.
And I can see some of these ones that we've just mentioned are actually ready to challenge.
Yeah.
Even like Brad probably doesn't ride light enough to ever win a premiership, but if he did, if you take it, I think his strike rate will be right up there.
Yeah.
I think Damien Lane's ready to challenge those top three.
Yeah,
he's sure. So I think of those three, the one that's most likely to drop off a little bit is Dwayne Dunn, because he's just, to me at the moment, he's just a bit too inconsistent. He's a bit streaky, and he's a different rider on horses stalking than he is on leaders.
Yeah.
And Michael Walker falls into that category as well when he's up and about. Now Ollie will just, whatever he's got the hunger for it, he'll be very hard to beat. And no problem with Craig Ribs, he's riding well at the moment. But I think some of these young ones with the right hunger can overtake them.
Well, there's a couple that I don't really want any part of at the minute, just because of the form they're in. Froggy Newitt, you can just don't want to bar him in the minute. He's been out of form for 5 or 6 months now, and you can throw Glenn Boss in there too. I don't seem to have too many favours from him.
But they're probably Bossy. He's like Jimmy Cassidy was. It's either really good or really bad. Like he rode a first starter for us yesterday from Hawkshard. He could not have rode it better. It was a beautiful ride. And so it just seems with Bossy, it's all about attitude, I think if he feels like he's getting good rides and people are supporting him, he's up and about, he's terrific. But if he starts to get a bit narky and a bit dirty on the whole game, he just really can disappear.
And I think it's all about the occasion too, Pots. Like if he thinks a horse, like he rode Lucky Hustler, that was a brilliant ride on Saturday, and then he rode that horse yesterday. But if he thinks that he can attach himself to that horse and that horse is going to take him further, then But if it's just a standard Wednesday and he's riding around in the 78 or something like that, and you know that that's the level of the horse. It just seems that it's a token effort punch it round.
Yeah, no, he definitely can be like that. But at the moment, he seems like he's up and about. So I mean, that's the trouble. I tend not to label them too much because they come in and out of form. Yeah. But I first identify the horses I want to back, and then think, is this the right rider for that? For that horse. So anyway. Other subjects we're going to cover before we sign off, Chucky, was the upcoming 30-minute gaps between races that is slated. When is it? February, I think it is.
6th to the 13th, I think. 2 thumbs up from me, Potts.
Yeah, no, it seems like a really good idea to me. I'm just... The disappointing aspect, Chuppy, is that, again, it highlights the complete lack of cooperation between Racing Victoria and Racing New South Wales. It just seems to be a fractured, non-existent relationship at the moment that's going nowhere. And
is it also the tab leaning on Racing New South Wales?
Oh yeah, of course. The tab's got a lot more influence in New South Wales than it does in Victoria, it seems. It's just, I don't know, like for us on a Saturday, if we're doing the Pro Better Live Room as an example, if Melbourne are running on 30-minute gaps and Sydney stick at 35 and 40, it'll be clashes are inevitable. We had a situation last week with the Gold Coast running in the Caulfield all day. So I think it's a great idea. I can't see. I mean, they've done it with the night meetings for ages. They did it yesterday at the hot day. Hong Kong have been doing it forever. I know, like some tracks, if the stabling areas are a long way from the mounting yard, it can be a problem.
It's been happening in England for 250 years.
Well, that's a good point, isn't it?
Yeah.
There you go.
It's from someone who goes to the races a lot, and I probably do 30 to 40 meetings a year. It is a long day.
Yeah.
And especially if you're like me and you're not necessarily, like, doesn't matter which meeting I go to, it's at least 20 minutes to half an hour to get there. And then, especially if you're working, then you've got to be there an hour before the first.
Yeah. And
you pack up after the last, and it just turns into a hell of a long day.
It is, absolutely.
Sometimes, like they've added a 9th race, fine. If you want to add a 9th race with the turnover, good as gold. Some of those half prize money races have been reasonable betting races, good as gold. But then shorten the day, because people don't have 5.5, 6 hours No one has that amount of time anymore unless you're either A, fully professional, or B, just retired.
Yeah, we got a taste of it yesterday. I know it was an unusual situation because of the early start, but the first race was at 10:40, and I think the last race was at 2 o'clock. So, what are we talking about there? 3 hours and 20 minutes or something? You know, I can't explain. I felt so fresh when that meeting was finished. I just got into the form for Flemington.
Well, the other thing with it is, Potts, like I was working and then watched the last 3 or something when I got home, but I was engaged for the whole day because you knew that once they'd ran that race and they sort of wrapped it up and gone over it, that the next one, it was only 5 minutes before on the radio they then did the 10-minute out update of what was happening on the course, and you go, okay, well I know that I can't tune out here because the next one's not far away. And I think just trying to keep that engagement. Saturdays is a different beast because everyone's competing, but what Sky Channel are essentially saying is that a race at Gunnedah is the same value as a race at Flemington because it deserves its spot in the clock as much as what Flemington does, which is just complete nonsense.
Oh, well, that's very good. Anyway, I mean, I'm looking forward to the trial, and hopefully it's something that takes on because there's a lot of dead time in a race day, particularly if you're only betting at one meeting. So, anyway, I think we've taken up enough time jumping. It's been a good attempt at our first go at the new format. We'll be back again next week to preview some of the races from next Saturday's meeting and hopefully with either Dan or Ralph or both. And
if you want to get in contact with us, you can either you can email the Punter Show, or you can tweet the Punter Show, or you can tweet me personally, which is at the Picnics. And any feedback's good, bad, otherwise, just let us know. If you don't like what we're doing, if you like what we're doing, just get in touch and let us know. And if there's anything that you want to know, like fire in any questions you want asked, there'll be as soon as I know who's going to be coming on each week, then I'll tweet that out to keep everyone in the loop as to who we're getting on. And if you've got any questions for them, you can certainly fire them in, and any interaction is more than welcome, isn't it, Potts?
That's it, mate. Sounds good to me.
But hopefully it's another winning set on Saturday, and we'll be back this time next week to do it all again.
Good punting, everyone.
Good luck, guys.